All right, so continuing the conversation about Venus. So I just mentioned Venus rules Taurus and Libra, very serene, happy places for the Venus to be. Take that with a grain of salt, given that there's not any, adverse aspects to Venus. Venus is comfy cozy in Taurus or Libra. Now, since Venus rules Taurus, then that means that it's in its detriment in Scorpio. Now, let me tell you a little bit something about Venus and Scorpio, okay? Remember how I said Venus rules relationships, love and relationships. Venus and Scorpio is not really conducive to that serene, peaceful, give and take type of, relationship. Scorpio energy needs to feel deeply and, they kind of need to experience everything on this intense high. So that may cause people with Venus and Scorpio, they may be prone to cheat because of the desire to kind of experience everything at its highest capacity and things like that. Venus and Scorpio could be very all encompassing in a relationship too, very, possessive and things of that nature. Can be vindictive if done wrong. So be really careful with a Venus and Scorpio. Don't turn on them. Don't do them wrong because they can be pretty vicious. The Venus and Scorpio is not the nice and serene place. It's good for attracting money, though. You may attract money because Scorpio has to deal with other people's money and Venus represents money. So you may get some money. You may also get some debt. You know what I'm saying? But you got to think about Venus and Scorpio when it comes to love and relationships and partnerships. When it comes to other people's money, it might mean you getting that money because of a loved one getting hurt or maybe passing away. So it may be a negative reason why you're getting said money. So think about that when you think about Venus and Scorpio. I know the things that I've said about Scorpio have been kind of womp. But just remember that I have Scorpio energy in my chart, and I actually really enjoy the Scorpio energy in general when it's used in its light manifestation. I do have Scorpio rising, and I have Mars and Chiron in the 8th house, which is against Scorpio energy. So I'm actually pretty Scorpionic. So don't think that I'm saying this stuff about Scorpio for you Scorpios out there, y'all getting offended, because I do have that Scorpio energy. I do. And I was mentioning what sign I have everything in. So my Venus is actually in Gemini. We're not really going to get into that, but yeah, that's where my Venus is. So that's Venus and Scorpio in its detriment. And Venus is also in its detriment when it's in Aries, because that's the opposite sign of Libra. So kind of like what we mentioned with the sun in Aries, how it's exalted and how it's in its fall in Libra, because the sun has to deal with your individuality and Libra has to deal with partnerships. So that's why it's difficult for the sun to be in Libra. Now think about that in reverse. So Venus rules Libra because it has to deal with others and relationships and partnerships. And Aries has to deal with the self. Being independent. So Venus in Aries is a very independent, spirit. It's hard to tie a Venus and Aries person down. Again, somebody who's prone to cheat if they are not stimulated by adventure. Like a Venus and Aries person is gonna want to do adventurous type of things, ride on your motorcycle, go get tattoos together, go skydive and stuff like that. And if you're like a homebody or something like that, if you're like a Venus in Cancer or something, you do not need to be with no Venus in Aries, because the Venus in Aries is going to be on 10 when it comes to a relationship and what they want to do. Because remember, Aries energy is very independent. Aries energy is very, I can do bad all by myself. So when it comes to a relationship, it's not that they wouldn't want to be with someone. It's just that they need to be with somebody on their level. They need to be with somebody who has their energy. They need to be with someone who has their sense of adventure, even danger, even. So this is why Venus, like the planet of love and pleasure and serenity, it's kind of when it's in Aries, because Aries like energy just really isn't about that life, not about peace, not about serenity, not about like beauty and stuff like that. Aries is about, going to the max, extreme and physical activity, like, you know what I'm saying? And adventurous type of things. And like I said before, if you are not giving that Venus and Aries what they need in terms of adventure, then they gonna be finding that in somebody else. So like I mentioned before, Venus represents the voice. So a Venus and Aries can make for a very like loud and like kind of boisterous attitude, not very diplomatic like the Venus like operating in its normal state would. And I forgot to mention a Venus in Scorpio, like in terms of the voice, it could be like they could have really push them to the limit and they can maybe have really negative things to say. So their words can really like sting you. And I would say that could be the same way for Aries, but Scorpio is going to sting a little bit more because Scorpio energy is kind of manipulative and they can like read minds and stuff like that. Whereas Venus and Aries are just going to be like, just going to be loud and extra and all over the place. And a Venus and Taurus is going to be looking at a Venus and Aries like, they are just too much. I just want to go to this restaurant and eat this good food, drink this good wine, and be on my way. And a Venus and Aries is going to be like, ooh, well, let's go skydiving and let's go scuba diving and let's do this and let's do that. And, and that's great for the people who like to do that. Venus and Aries people, find your people. Find those people. This is why it's important to look at somebody's chart, because you look at somebody and they're like, oh, I'm an Aries and I'm a Leo. Bam, we match, because that would be considered a trine. But wait, hold up, wait, where are the Venuses? So you got this Sun in Aries and they got their Venus in Pisces. And then you got this Sun in Leo and they have their Venus also in Leo. So that's not going to mesh well. So this is why it's important, especially when it comes to relationships, that you look at the Venus placement, because the Venus placement is about how you want to be loved, like what you desire in a relationship, what you desire in a partnership. So it's very important to keep in mind. So speaking of Pisces, Venus is actually exalted in Pisces, which makes a lot of sense because Pisces is probably the sign of the artist, as I was saying in one of my first videos. It's the sign of beauty. So this is makeup on another level, enhanced and everything like that. This is beauty. This is hair. This is all different types of hair. This is not keeping it simple like a Venus and Taurus would rock the same but cute hairstyle every day. A Venus and Pisces would switch it up, honey, and different color nails and all of that, and different hair, different makeup, very face beat, contouring, all of that is very, very Venus and Pisces. It's about beauty. And Pisces, like, I think people say that Libra is the sign of romance, or even Leo. Pisces is the sign of like the hopeless romantic, and Venus is about romance. So Pisces is all about that extra romance, like horse-drawn carriage, and because Pisces energy is about a fantasy and is about idealism. It's not necessarily about reality. But it's not to say that that's not nice to think about or dream about and things of that nature. So, Pisces, Venus and Pisces, I think that would make somebody have kind of like a soft speaking voice. Because Pisces energy is I don't want to use the word meek, although sometimes it could be meek, but it's not as like in your face as some other signs are. But I would say a Venus in Pisces is a very pleasant person, very compassionate when dealing with others. Because remember, Venus has to deal with others and relationships with others. And very, and very peaceful, and things like that. Oh, I forgot to mention, because Venus has to deal with money. Venus in Aries could be kind of erratic with money. Pisces energy isn't necessarily great with money, but they create like an insulation, so that could kind of prevent them from being, destitute, even though Pisces energy is the sign of like homelessness and stuff like that. They can get a lot of help. They can be enabled to a certain extent, but sometimes it can be for good. But think that Pisces energy is very, compassionate, and it works well with Venus because it has to deal with others. And, Pisces energy is very charitable, again, having to deal with others and things of that nature. So Pisces is a very happy place for Venus. It just makes you a very artistic and creative person, music wise, film wise, style wise, and everything like that is just a great place for Venus, in terms of Pisces. So since Venus in Pisces is its exaltation, then that means that it is in its fall in Virgo. And it makes a lot of sense because Virgos are just like, they're just so uptight. Like I said before, Venus is the planet of love and pleasure and serenity and peacefulness. And Virgo energy is just so like nervous energy. It's like they're always on edge because it's like they need something to do. If you don't know anything else about Virgo energy, give them something to do. Virgo energy cannot sit idle, okay? Neither can Scorpio energy, because Scorpios can get pretty destructive. Give Scorpios something to do too. But definitely give Virgos something to do because they might make themselves sick. Like, give them something to do. But the Venus in Virgo makes Venus a very, very practical, very logical approach to relationships. And they need somebody who kind of like understands routine and order. Like a Venus in Virgo and a Venus in Aries, they could never, like, just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do that to yourselves, y'all. Look at your charts. Please do that, because that is like just destructive waiting to happen. But a Venus in Virgo, a Virgo energy is there to serve. Virgo has to deal with serving. So they are going to want to do these types of things for their mate, serve their mate, like, cook and clean and be of, service because they want to be helpful. Remember, they got to do stuff. But I would say that they would also want that reciprocated because Venus is about what you need in a relationship, to feel, comfortable and things like that. But on the negative end, it can really produce like a very, uptight kind of person, very like nervous energy. That's very, very Virgo, just not able to relax and chill. So if you happen to have Venus in Virgo, just understand that there is somebody out there for you with a Venus in Capricorn or a Venus in Scorpio or a Venus in Taurus that will work out for you just fine. So it's just your energy everybody's energy doesn't mesh well with everybody. So that's just, something to think about when it comes to your Venus and how you love. So so that's very important to know. And I'm trying to think for the voice, since Venus has to deal with the voice and Virgo is like mercurial in terms of like thinking, I would say like Venus and Virgo would be a very talkative person. You might not see it at first because Virgo's energy is very insular. It's very to themselves and things like that. But if you get them going, then you can get them talking. The biggest thing that I can stress for Virgo energy, period, doesn't matter what planet or sign Virgo is in, just they need to be of service. They need to feel useful. So this is also like a moon in Virgo too. Like this is the type of stuff that they need. So make use of a Virgo. Don't take a Virgo for granted, especially in a relationship if you're dealing with a Venus and Virgo. because they want to know that you appreciate the things that they do for you, how the way that they serve you and the way that they're helping you. They still want to be appreciated for that, even though like they need that for like peace of mind. They still need that like gratitude for like, you know, thank you for doing this for me. You know what I'm saying? So think about that with Venus and Virgo. And I will be right back in the next video, and we're going to talk about Mars.